Wow,
I clap really loudly. I'm good at it.
you do.
I can master that cup that catching the air right in there in the cup, and that's how you make a
That's
really loud clap.
that is the loudest clap I think I've ever heard.
I can do louder. I won't do it now. I will save your eardrums, but I can totally do louder.
I didn't know that this was a skill that you had mastered.
It totally is.
Okay, learn something new.
Listen, baby, I used to be a drummer. Like, we get into these kinds of things.
I thought y'all played spoons.
Welcome to the Wandering RV Podcast, your bi-weekly source for our stories
Our screw ups.
and our successes living the full-time RV life. I'm your host, Kara, the Wandering RV Babe, and this is my driver, Brian.
Hello, lovely ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh, I love that. That was a very, very sweet little intro on your part.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
I try.
yeah. So where are we at today, baby?
So, we are not on the road this week, not for any specific reason. We're just hanging out here near Austin. We're about an hour east of Austin. We've already made one trip in to go explore Congress Avenue, and I'm sure we'll be doing more over the next week or two.
Yeah, yeah. And so, because we're not driving as we're recording, we're not traveling down the road. We get to have some yummy drinks tonight.
Yeah, I'm staring at this beautiful drink in front of me, baby. What we got going here?
Yeah, so it's an old fashioned. It's a smoked old fashioned.
Ah,
Is it yummy?
it's very tasty.
Yeah. See, so what you guys may or may not know about us is we are foodies, self-proclaimed foodies. That also includes being boozies, and
Foodie and boozies. I
I
like
don't,
that.
I don't know how to translate it into beverages, but one of the hobbies that I picked up, I think kind of during COVID is really when I really got into it, is I enjoy making cocktails at home and just getting different flavor profiles, mixing things and trying to make cocktails or perfecting, the oldies but the goodies, including an old fashioned. And when we were on Congress Street last weekend, we went into this cute little boutique and they had these smoked bitters infused sugar cubes that are specifically designed for making an old fashioned. And I was like, well, of course I have to have that, and of course we have to try it.
And by the way, I don't know the name of the shop that we were at, but
I don't either.
I'm literally just going to describe it as the man store.
Oh, it totally is the man store. It's totally catered to men, and so I knew that you would like it. And we went in there, and then I found that, and I was like, "Well, I don't know, I want to buy something."
They had some really cool rubs for meat, and then they had some beard oils and an apron for smoking. So there were quite a few things that I actually did think about buying, but we settled on the smoked
Bitters infused
fused.
sugar cubes.
Yep, that. Yep, that's a lot of names.
It is a lot of names. The stuff for making an old fashioned.
There you go.
So yeah. Well, cheers, baby.
Cheers. So I'm gonna jump in real quick with one of the big things that I think we knew going in to doing this full time, but didn't quite grasp the concept of is all the different kinds of memberships that exist. This is not even going to be a comprehensive discussion. This is just going to be a few that we've had our own hands at, and that's about it.
Yeah, and by memberships, I think what we're really referring to is discount programs. So there's lots of opportunities to make camping, whether you just do it every now and then or you're like us and you do it all the time, but to make it cheaper. And it involves a lot of discount programs and a lot of memberships. And so this is probably just a good opportunity to walk through, at least like you said, the ones that we've had interaction with and that we know about, but certainly not a comprehensive list by any means.
So I'm gonna start with the kind of quickest, easiest, earliest one that we really got our hands into real early on. Good Sam.
Mhm.
Good Sam membership. It gives you a 10% discount at all participating RV parks. Now they can apply that 10% discount however they want to, but That's the idea is you get usually somewhere around 10% off. Sometimes it's only on nightly rates. Sometimes they'll go ahead and apply it for a full weekly rate or a monthly rate. Sometimes they won't apply it for the weekend, but they will for the weekdays. Lots of different stuff. But on top of that, you'll also get a discount at what I'm not going to say is the best store in the world, but one that we frequent quite a bit, and that's Camping World.
Yeah, Camping World does tend to be more expensive, and they're not everywhere, but they have things for campers that nobody else has. And when you apply the discount, the price generally is pretty reasonable. And so, things like RV toilet paper or water filters, you might be able to get at Walmart and you might be able to get them much cheaper. But then there's other things like sewer hoses and things like that that you really can't find in too many other places other than Camping World or Amazon.
Yeah, and honestly, there's been a couple of times Amazon has not always been cheaper, and so it just kind of depends. And Good Sam or Camping World does run a lot of promos where you're getting discounts on stuff. I think the other day I walked in and it was like buy four toilet papers or roll or four packages of toilet paper and you get like four more free or something like that. And so I was stocked up on like 8 packages of toilet paper.
That's a really good deal.
I don't remember what it was exactly, but I remember thinking that is the cheapest I think I've ever bought toilet paper for an RV. Those of you who don't realize, don't live in RVs, we do use a specific kind of toilet paper that is has a quicker dissolving rate. It's not like the rapid kind where yeah
It falls apart in your hand.
you're like I didn't even finish before it started falling apart. Ooh. So, but moving on from that wonderful thought, Good Sam is owned and operated alongside Camping World, and so their discount applies to both. But what's great about Good Sam is even if you don't have the membership, they have a great website where you can look up reviews on campsites in advance. So it's free, open to everyone. Please use it. Now, obviously, they're going to give a little bit of higher preference towards their campsites that are actually members of their program, but they will list any campsite that they've received reviews for on their website, and it's quite a comprehensive list.
Yeah. And the nice thing too that we have found is they they give an overall rating, but then they also kind of go into some detail on key highlights of each campground and different specific items within the campground that they rate in different ways so that way you can decide for yourself what is most important to you. And one of the things that I would say we both kind of use as a good barometer is their rating for their bathrooms. We have our own bathroom. We are self contained within our own bathroom as long as we're on full hookups. And so we very rarely will use a campground bathroom, but it is really a good barometer of like how well they're taking care of the campground overall and the quality that you're getting when you go. So again, Good Sam is a great source to go to, and the free campground review website is awesome, but then just their discount program is really, really helpful for a myriad of different things that you might need.
And then on top of their actual membership that gets you discounts, they've also got like a roadside assistance and I think one or two other things that you can subscribe to, and that really is going to depend on like your insurance provider whether you feel like it's a worthwhile add-on. And they actually do also provide RV insurance, which is again something that you kind of have to evaluate based off of your own personal insurance and what your plans are there. So the second membership is one that we acknowledge its existence but didn't really have one until just recently, and that is a KOA membership.
Mm-hmm.
Campgrounds of America is a company. They actually, I don't know if they own, but they very heavily operate and have a lot of very specific guidelines on their campgrounds that will then use the name KOA as the name of the campground. So they use the name KOA, say Austin, and that is a KOA in Austin, Texas, potentially. I don't know if that one exists or not, but pretend it does. But what they do is they have a lot of guidelines on their campgrounds, and so they will require like certain levels of quality for the bathroom and making sure that it has a laundry room and other things like that. The discount program is again, it's not super great. It's like maybe 10, 15%, and each campground obviously has their own price range, We did not have one for a very long time just because we didn't really stay at K-Ways because to us they're a little on the expensive side for what they are. But for a lot of people, they are really convenient and really easy, and you know that they're going to be a really good quality campground. And so we never got a membership. We finally had a plan to stay at one next year, and we were going to stay there long enough that actually having the membership was basically going to pay for itself. So we now have a membership for a year. And whether we renew it or not, who knows?
Yeah, I think that's something to keep in mind too, is when you look at all of the memberships, look at how you camp, where you camp, what your preference is, and what your return on investment is going to be. Because some of the programs literally will pay for themselves with just a few stays, whereas others require you to commit a little bit more before you get that return on investment.
Speaking of paying for themselves, the membership that I think is going to pay for itself the quickest is our Passport America membership. We have already used it several times this year. I think I want to say it was something like we needed to stay like 3 weeks at a Passport America within the next 3 years because I think I got the 3 year membership.
You got the lifetime membership, didn't you?
Oh, maybe I got the lifetime. I don't
I think you
remember.
got the lifetime
Maybe
membership.
you might be right. So I might have a lifetime membership, and it was something like 3 weeks over the next 3 years or something like that before it would most likely pay for itself. And I was like, yes, and it definitely has already worked really well. We got massive discounts when we stayed in Ohio. We were coming back from the Northeast, heading down towards Kentucky to go sip on water.
Yeah, good Kentucky water. There's a theme here tonight with the old fashioned
Yeah.
and good Kentucky water.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's water that's been filtered through corn and other grains
and then rested in a barrel,
and then
and then it's
served.
yummy.
Yeah. So we were heading through Ohio on our way down to Kentucky, and we stayed at a Passport America for what, 2 weeks?
It was just a week.
Was it just a week?
It was
Okay.
just a week. Yeah. Okay. So, but I gotta, I kind of have to go on a little tangent and
Okay.
talk
Well,
a little bit about the campground itself.
hold on. I'm gonna preface this. We're not gonna mention the name of this campground.
I don't even remember the name of it.
We're not gonna mention the name of this campground. If you are this campground and you are listening to this, change your ways.
I mean, overall, the campground was actually really nice. It was kind of on, I don't know if it was on a pond or a lake, but it had some waterfront access. They had water activities, and it was large. And so they, it was a really kind of nice little spot. The two things that I kind of have to dog on it for, though, is they had the most absurd security to get into the campground. And the reason why I say this is because, and every campground's different, like, just like an apartment complex. Some of them are gated, some of them are not. This one was gated, but you would pull up to the front gate and there was a camera there, and literally there was somebody in the office who had to manually press a button to let you into the campground. And they had a sign that said if you got in after, like, I don't know, I think it was 10 p.m. So it wasn't super late, but it wasn't too early either. But if you got in after this certain time each night, you were just SOL. Like, you literally just had to park in the front office parking lot and walk to your campsite. And here was the most absurd part. Not that they had to do it manually, which was really frustrating because there were a couple times that we would get in after dinner or something, or after going and doing things, and we would literally have to sit there and wait for several minutes, or we would have to call them and say, like, hey, can you go back to the office and hit the button for us? But the most absurd part about this was their fence that bordered the actual campground itself. It was a decorative fence. It kept nobody out. It would keep out vehicles from coming in, but not an individual person. And there was no security to get out of the campground. So it really wasn't super secure. It wasn't really doing a whole lot, and it felt like a lot more effort than it was worth. So that was the first dog that I have on it. The second one was, a lot of the spots were really nice spots, and they had really open site areas where you could sit outside and you could sit kind of by your camper, and you had this like nice view and a good little grassy patch there. Our particular site was not that. Our site was super close to the other RV that was next to us, to the point where all of their hookups for their RV, including their sewer hookup, was maybe within 2 feet of our front door. And so it wasn't convenient. It wasn't appealing for us to be able to pull our camping chairs out and sit outside and or eat outside or anything like that, just because we're literally looking at our neighbor's sewer line. So it just kind of wasn't a super great experience for us overall in terms of our actual site and what we were there to do. But the nice thing about it was we were only there for a week. It was literally a stopover on our way to Kentucky, and we got a massive discount. And so it was a nice thing to have and helped us to inch towards paying for that Passport America discount. And now we have to pause for a puppy break. She needs a little attention. Yeah. Okay, go lay down. Go lay down.
Yeah. I will say, like, it wasn't the greatest of campgrounds. There were a lot of nicer spots that would have been great to have been at. I don't know if we got the less great spot because we were there on a discount program or not. Who knows? I won't speak to that portion of it. But it was a really nice campground to be able to stay at. It was very beautiful. It was very just relaxing, and we enjoyed ourselves while we were there. We went to, I think we were maybe 45 minutes or so from Cleveland, so we went ahead and went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Got to do that for the first time ever. That was
That was fun.
that was a lot of fun. Getting to see which all bands that we enjoy made it to the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And then afterwards we went to really great just local brewery.
Speaking of being foodies, they had some of the best food.
Oh my gosh, that food was amazing. They had pretzels. I think you had a corn dog.
I had a corn dog and it was massive and it was super super tasty. I don't know if it was a brat that was in it or what, but it was not just a like hot dog. It was really good. It was gourmet.
It was really tasty. It was called Noble Beast Brewing Company, and we had a lot of fun there. Some really good beers. I think we still have one of their barley wines sitting in our fridge.
We do. Yeah,
That
we
was
do.
that
It
was
was
some
very
good stuff.
tasty.
Those are kind of the main memberships that I consider to have really good value and that are really simple, like really easy to understand and really easy to get into. They're just basic discount programs. The next one I'm going to move to is one that we have used so many times on our one night stays: Boondockers Welcome and Harvest Host.
Love Boondockers Welcome and Harvest Toast.
That is a terrific membership. That is a You should probably most likely have this membership just because it is so helpful. If you're heading somewhere and you're just needing to stay somewhere one night, if you've got tanks big enough, then you boondock. If you want a really nice place to boondock, Boondockers Welcome, Harvest Hosts are a great option. So worth it. I don't know how many times we'd have to stay to make our money back per se, but what I will say is just it is so convenient that I can't imagine that we haven't already made our money back this year because we've stayed there so many times. All it is basically, Harvest Host is local wineries, distilleries, breweries, really any place of business, a market could have them where you can just come. They have space set up where you can just come and park your RV and stay there overnight. Some will let you stay 2 or 3 nights. Harvest Host will just ask you to go ahead and
They ask you to like peruse the business that you're staying at. So if it's a winery, like they'll ask you to, maybe go in for a tasting or something like that. Like buy something from the business, but the actual stay overnight is included in
it's
your
completely free.
yeah.
You pay your membership. You any amount of time that you stay anywhere you go, it is completely free. Boondockers Welcome is really just essentially people's homes or land that they just have the space. What I really like about Boondockers Welcome is for us, especially when we're traveling in the South during warmer months, there's a lot of them that actually will have 30 amp hookups for you. So you can
There was one that had 50 amps.
there actually was one that had 50 amps, but they'll have hookups, electric and potentially even water hookups. Most of them won't have sewer, but a lot of them will have like water and electric, so you can actually go ahead and hook up and at least run maybe one of your AC units. If you've got a larger one like ours that has two, you're not going to be able to do that on 30 amp, but you can definitely do it on a 50 amp setup. But they'll have all of that for you, so you can effectively still kind of have a few amenities. Use your microwave if you need to. Just don't have the microwave and AC running at the same time.
Yeah.
But you can at least do that, heat up a little bit of leftovers or something like that, and then move on the next day. And it's been really, really great. We've used it so many times. I like to, I usually target Boondockers Welcome during the warmer months just because I can get electricity. And I've heard stories like some of the harvest hosts will provide electricity as well. There's just not a way to filter that, unfortunately. That would be my one criticism. The one thing that I would add is it's already an filter option with Boondockers Welcome. Add that as a filter option for harvest hosts, so if they're able to give you electricity, you can know. And so it's just a lot easier versus I have to message them and be like, hey, do y'all have a 30 amp hookup that we could maybe plug into so we can use our AC? It just slows down the whole process versus just being able to say, oh, they have a 30 amp hookup. Now, they will recommend, Boondockers Welcome, the company will recommend giving some form of tip for the electricity used to your host. Some host will put it on their page and say, hey, $5 or $2 or something like that. So just kind of good practice if you do use electricity or water, go ahead and be considerate because that they are paying for that. Give them a little bit of something, but the actual night stay, however long you stay, is free or included in the membership.
Yeah. The other nice thing is a lot of times you can catch a Boondockers Welcome or a Harvest Toast last minute. So if your plans blow up while you're traveling down the road, or, something happens, or you literally just need a one night stay and you just need to book it last minute, you can often find a Boondockers Welcome or Harvest Host close by where you're going that will be able to accommodate you.
Absolutely. So, from there, I'm going to transition to the first one that we're going to be canceling.
Yeah.
And I will say also kind of goes into your concept of being able to do things last minute. Thousand Trails. It has not been worth anything to us. We have this membership, and we have been completely unable to use it for the entire year that we've had it.
Now, I will say it is beneficial for certain campers who camp a certain way, and we'll explain that here in just a minute. And so we're not dogging on
No, no,
Thousand
no.
Trails. We're not saying it's terrible. It is actually a really good membership if you can use it and if that works for your camping lifestyle. For us, it doesn't work.
Because we are full timers, I'm planning our entire route of where we're going to be at any given time for upwards of 6 months to a year in advance, depending on where we're going and what we're doing. The basic Thousand Trails membership only allows you to book up to 3 months in advance, and they have to have availability, which is, I presume, is set by how many people have signed up. Just like any other campground, it's all about availability. And you can only stay there for 3 weeks. Actually, I think with the basic membership, you can only stay there for 2 weeks, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I know they extend it to a longer reservation time. I think they extend it out to, I think ours is 90 days. They extend it out to 120 days when you upgrade, and they allow you to stay for up to 3 weeks. Problem is even at 120 days, I know that's 4 months, and I know there are a lot of times where that could totally make sense, and I could make those reservations that way. The problem is, it just hasn't been reliable enough. It hasn't been where we needed it to be, or if it was, like I tried to use it actually when we went to Ohio, but because we have a Thousand Trails Southeast membership, we can't get a spot in Ohio.
Yeah, because they are partitioned out. I think there's like 4 or 5 different regions across the country, and so that's where you have to pick your membership. And you can add on memberships, but if you're wanting to travel all over the country, that's really expensive.
And
Their membership is quite expensive, and so it only is going to give you a return on investment if you're really using it.
yeah, and when I went, actually, what's funny is when I went to go add the Northeast region, rather than letting me just spend the money to add the region, I wanted to see how much it would cost. I think it was only going to be supposed to be like $100 or $150 to add a different region, but every time I went to go add the other region, it wanted me to upgrade to the next higher membership. So I had to have a higher membership, then I could add additional regions. So it's like the base membership doesn't allow you to have more than one region.
Which is super confusing, by the way, when some of these other memberships that we've already talked about, it's literally like one price, you get access to the whole network, and it's like the same discount everywhere you go. So it's very straightforward, whereas this is a very tiered system, and so it can get really confusing really quick.
So real quickly, I'll kind of explain. I don't. We haven't really explained for those of you who don't know what Thousand Trails does. Is you pay a yearly membership, and then you can stay at any of their participating campgrounds for free. For again, like I said, for the base membership, it's for up to 2 weeks. For an upgraded membership, it extends up to 3 weeks. I know I believe there's multiple tiers even above that, which I didn't even get into.
Yeah.
But essentially, you can stay there at any of their campgrounds for free at any given moment, as long as again there's availability, and you can stay there for 2 weeks. Then you have to stay at a non Thousand Trails campground for at least.
I don't remember if it was a couple of days or if it was like a week or something like
I
that.
feel like it was different with each membership. Like some
Yeah.
like the base membership, I think we had to stay like somewhere else for like 2 weeks, and then we could come back.
Yeah, but either way, you have to go out of their network for a period of time, and then you could go back into their network and stay for another 2 to 3 weeks, depending on your membership, again, for free.
Yeah. And so, depending on what you're doing and where you're going, it could be an absolutely great membership. Just check it out. Understand that there are some limitations. You need to be able to not necessarily plan too far ahead and be flexible, essentially. You have to be a
Yeah.
little extra flexible, which I'll admit we're not super flexible with our travel plans. Like, we want a specific route, we want to be at specific places, at specific times.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is the cap on how long you can stay within their network before you have to move to a non-network campground and then you can come back is problematic for us because we like to schedule our time to stay at places longer than 3 weeks if we can. 3 weeks is kind of the minimum for us, but we generally like to stay for 4 weeks or so at a minimum, and because we work during the week, it would be very challenging if we all of a sudden midweek had to move. Even if it's moving a few minutes down the road, that it's a lot to tear down the rig, get it ready for travel, and then get all set back up. And that's just not something that we want to have to deal with. And so we would rather have the flexibility of just being able to kind of be our own planners and find places where we can stay the length of time that we want to stay, regardless of what that time is, and not be forced to move every 2 or 3 weeks, even if it is just down the road.
Yeah, I would say honestly, it's probably the best membership for people who maybe work during the week, have a home, and then every once in a while they're like, "Hey, do you want to go camping this weekend?" Sure, great. Let's see which campgrounds within X amount of distance have availability this weekend, and we'll just go to whichever one works. And that's great. And that's I know a lot of people who camp like that, and that's awesome. And it would definitely be beneficial for them. For us, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Or if you say you're retired and you don't have a schedule during the week that you have to keep, and you're fine with just kind of moving around at will, then it's amazing. At that point, like, you're staying a lot of places for free.
Yep, totally agree. So we'll kind of move into this last membership. That this one was the one that we never got. We didn't really ever intend on getting, but kind of spurred the conversation of, what memberships are out there and which ones do we care about. And again, this list is not an exhaustive list. There are so many more campground memberships. There's so many more things you can do. And if you have one that you know of that you think would work for our setup, please email us podcast@wanderingrvbabe.com. We would love to hear about them. And there may be reasons that we didn't look into them in the first place. Who knows? There may be memberships out there that we just haven't run into yet. The last one, when we bought our RV, we got a free stay for what was it, like 3 or 4 days
Yeah.
at a campground, and basically the only requirement for using those free days was to listen to their membership pitch. No big deal. We were like, okay,
That's an easy price to pay.
easy price to pay. We'll come, we'll listen to the membership pitch, and then we'll move on. And we looked at the campgrounds. It was a group of campgrounds. We looked at the ones on the list, and we are like, hey, we want to go to Branson. So we went to Branson.
Yeah.
Great place to go hang out, and we'll tell you more about that in a minute. But the membership program is Ocean Canyon Properties. It is a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. I don't think, fun fact, I don't think they actually have any places that are along the ocean, or maybe they do, and it's like one or two places.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
But they do have a collection of campgrounds in some pretty cool places, like kind of like touristy places or places where people might want to go and visit.
Absolutely. These are super nice, super resort style, like
Oh
all
yeah.
all the amenities, really nice swimming pools, really nice laundry rooms, like event centers and everything. Like totally, really, really cool campgrounds. Love the setup. It's really awesome. The membership though is a little unreasonable for our taste. It is a lifetime membership, so
You own it.
you own it, and apparently, I don't fully understand this, but you can actually will it down to your children or somebody else when you pass away. But it is a group of campgrounds that you can go stay at for free, very similar to Thousand Trails. You can stay there up to 3 weeks, and then you'd have to move somewhere else, and then you can come back. But this is yours for lifetime, and there will always be space for you, supposedly. I don't know how that works, but that's the idea, is that there will always be space for you to be able to come and camp at any of these campgrounds. And it sounds totally awesome, really, really cool. But again, it kind of fell into the same bag as Thousand Trails for us, that it was a little costly for what we would ever be able to use it for. And honestly, it was just a little too restrictive on where we could be. Like 3 weeks really wasn't bad. Like it hit the 3 week mark at least. And I think they actually said there were some campgrounds that you could stay longer at too.
Yeah.
Like it depend each campground that was part of the network, you could stay at different links depending on which campground it was. And so there was like there were ones that you could only stay there for a week, and there were some you could stay there for like, I don't even remember. But so it worked out. The problem was there just weren't enough campgrounds as part of the membership. They were all kind of focused around like Texas, Missouri. I think they had Louisiana. I think they may have
They
even
had Arkansas, Alabama, Florida.
yeah, but they were very sparse, very few, but they were kind of spread out, kind of in just that southeast corner of the United States. And honestly, we were sitting there looking at it, and next year, 2023, we're going to be heading all the way up the West Coast. We wouldn't even come near to any of those campgrounds.
Yeah.
And so it just, honestly, it was just a little too expensive for something that we just don't see a value in for us at this moment, at this time, and in our current lifestyle of how we like to travel.
Yeah. It would be perfect if you wanted to be in those areas and you really weren't planning on going much outside of those areas, or if you're somebody who and this is very, like, we know people that are like this, who they have a regular home, but then when they do go camping, they have like one or two places that they go consistently, and they'll go there for like a week at a time on vacation or something like that. That membership is perfect if that's where you want to go, and you're like, hey, I only want to go to like these one or two places, or these, like, whatever their network is, but you have a consistent place that you want to go to. It's awesome. And so it really depends on how you're going to camp, where you're going to camp, the length of time that you're going to stay at, as to which memberships and discount programs are going to work best for you, and which ones you want to pay for and combine. I will say, we have not run into any campgrounds that will let you combine discount programs. So generally, if they take multiples, you just have to pick whichever one you want to use with them, and you get whatever discount is applicable. But they're not going to let you use like your Good Sam membership and your Passport America membership and your Boondockers Welcome membership and get like extra discounts on top of discounts.
Yeah, and I think I may have glossed over it when we were talking about Passport America, and so I'll real quickly say the discounts like Passport America. I think their average is like 50% off per day. Again, same thing kind of applies. It sometimes you can use it for individual days. Sometimes you can use it for a weekly rate, sometimes a monthly rate, sometimes only certain days of the week. And so you'll just have to work with each individual campground on that. Passport America is 50%. I think KOA is 10%. Good Sam is 10%. Thousand Trails is completely free. Boondockers Welcome. Harvest Host completely free, slash maybe giving a tip for using electricity. So just kind of to gloss over real quick all the percentage discount rates of all of these different ones, and then Ocean Canyon Properties again, 100% free, but limited selection.
Yeah. But Branson was cool. So I will say the one Ocean Canyon property that we went to was in Branson. We wanted to go there anyway, and it was hysterical though because a lot of places, like we said, we like to go places for longer periods of time, and we like to really kind of like get to know the area. And so we've been all over the country, and very rarely do we get mistaken for tourists. Most of the time, people think that we're locals, no matter where we're at, which is kind of fun. But in Branson, everybody's a tourist, and so that was really interesting. It just very much felt like a bit of a sales pitch everywhere we went, but it was still a blast to go to, and there were lots of cool things that we got to do.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was really beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
beautiful, very hilly areas, like just great to look at, and then shows for days. I mean, if you are into watching shows, you could watch a show for a different show every day for a solid week, maybe longer, without having to repeat shows.
Oh, I'm sure it would be longer. There were so many shows. And then the alpine coasters. There was like what, 4 or 5 different alpine
There was
coasters?
at least three alpine coasters, and we didn't do all three of them. We decided to be smart and leave it for maybe next time. But we went to the Copperhead Alpine Coaster. We'd heard great things about it. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool. But there's at least two more that we saw in the time that we were driving around. We were only there for like 3 or 4 days, but in the time we were there, we saw at least two more.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your favorite thing that we did there?
Oh, I mean, it's probably going to be the exact same as yours. It's going to be Top of the Rock.
Top of the Rock. Top of the Rock was super fun, and we got to do a golf cart cave tour, and in the cave was the Bat Bar.
Yep, the Bat Bar. They had kind of these pre-made canned mixer drinks that were. It was really interesting. It was just kind of fun. It actually tasted really good. I'm not
They
always big.
really did,
Not
yeah.
always a big fan of the pre-made ones, but these were really tasty. They were canned. You drive into the cave, and immediately right there at this entrance is the Bat Bar, and you get to grab yourself a can, and you're the one driving the golf cart, so you're kind of going through your way. I mean, they got a pretty strong speed limit on them, but
Gee, I wonder why.
but you're going through this cave, you're going underneath a waterfall and all this stuff, and they've
The
got.
side of the mountain.
Yeah, so then you
The
come out and you're on the side of the mountain. You're going over these really cool bridges, these beautiful views. I mean, we got so many photos and so many videos while we were doing it. I don't even think we went through all of them. It was just so pretty. It was beautiful. And then there's a Native American museum in the resort, and like
that was massive.
it was massive. I mean, it took us quite a while to walk through that whole thing, and it was really pretty cool. And then I think there was a restaurant there. We didn't end up eating at the restaurant, but there was a restaurant there on site as well.
Yeah, actually, I think there were two restaurants. There was like a kind of a more formal restaurant, and then there was more of like a restaurant that had like kind of that brew pub kind of vibe, and it was a lot of fun. And then I think the notable mention for me in Branson too was the 1984 arcade.
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
That was super cool.
So it was a really fun arcade. You come in, you pay like $10 or something like that entrance fee. They've got all these old school arcade machines that you can just keep playing for free all you want to, and we had so much fun. We played a little bit of foosball while we were there.
Yeah, I kicked your butt.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's how I remember it.
Okay, well, if that's how you remember.
No, no, no. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, you totally schooled me, but it was still a lot of fun to
I feel
play.
like that's like that is the husband scenario where like your wife says, "I won. That's how I remembered," and you're like, "No, but I won. But if I call you on this, then I'm the bad guy. So I have to wait for you to actually admit that you lost. Because if I call you on it, then that doesn't look good for me." So it's like the husband scenario. Sometimes you just have to sit
You
there and
lose if you lose, and you win if you lose, and you lose if you win. What's the saying? I don't know.
something like that.
It's a lose-lose battle for you.
The arcade was really awesome. It was a ton of fun. One of the other things, probably my runner-up would be like the Hey Goods show.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was a lot of fun. It was just a really entertaining variety show. I don't think we knew anybody who directly recommended it to us, but it was just kind of like this expectation that if you went to Branson, you're supposed to go see the Hay Goods.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And I mean, they definitely put on a good show. It was a lot of fun. They get the crowd into it, and they sing a lot of songs that are like singable. They're popular songs throughout different genres and decades and things like that. And so it was fun to get into it and have a good time with it.
Yeah, now one of the places you dragged me to, which ended up not being too bad, was the Butterfly Palace.
I love the Butterfly Palace. Oh my gosh, all the butterflies, they were so sweet, and they land on you, and then you can like get a close-up picture of them. They're so cute.
Yep.
It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't, I mean, it wasn't bad. It just wouldn't be something that I would normally see. Oh, Butterfly Palace. That sounds like something I want to do today.
Well, thankfully for you, that was the exact thought that went through my head, and so that's why we did it.
And we went to one other cavern, the Talking Rocks Cavern.
Yeah, Talking Rocks was cool. It was a different cavern than what I've been to previously because it was just this like long vertically down cavern. So there was a ton of steps to go down and then a ton of steps to go back up, but it has a really cool kind of history to it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, that was our trip to Branson, which was fun and we got to do a ton of stuff and feel like true tourists.
Yeah. Well, it was our list of memberships brought on by the fact that we went to Branson to check out the Ocean Canyon properties. And again, I will say, all of these memberships have their value. It just depends on your style of camping and what you're doing, and how often you're going to be camping. If if you only go camping once or twice a year, I'm not sure if any of these memberships would be worth it to you or not. It just depends. But if you're out there on the regular, I'm sure one of these memberships probably has some value to you, and you probably already have that membership. But we just wanted to talk a little bit about it, just to kind of say these are the memberships we've run into so far. This is how useful or not useful they've been. Again, not negatively saying anything bad about any of these memberships. It's just certain ones don't apply to our style of camping.
Exactly.
So one suggestion I will make with all of this discussion in mind is carry cash. Do carry cash. Like with Boondockers Welcome, you want to be able to tip your host. There have been several campgrounds that have a cash discount, so you're able to save some money there.
Yeah, it's a whole nother discount program.
It's literally a whole nother discount program. You're carrying cash with you. You might get $5, $10 potentially off per night by having cash with you, because not every campground wants to deal with credit card transactions or trying to deposit a check. Just having cash, it makes life so much easier. So please, please, please carry cash with you. You can carry however much you feel comfortable in your wallet with you on any given day, and maybe carry a little bit extra stored somewhere hidden inside of your RV, so that way you at least always have cash. I know it's like an older generation thing, and there's a lot of younger generations that just want to have their Ridge wallet and whatever micro wallet and not have to carry it with them, but it is so important, so helpful. So that's my one suggestion I would make is your additional discount program is having cash with you, because you never know what kind of discounts you might get or how much easier life's going to be by having it.
Yeah, I mean, there was one campground we went to that was a cash only campground.
Yep.
So yeah, so it's really important to have cash, and that is a great discount program. But we do have one fan question before we wrap up the episode. And this fan question is, how expensive or inexpensive is it to RV full time? We've had a couple people that have asked us, "Oh man, you're saving a ton of money by RVing full time, aren't you?" Or and then we've on the flip side of it had a bunch of people say, "Oh my gosh, how expensive is that to, pay for all these memberships and get site fees all the time and diesel prices and all of that stuff." And so I thought that was a good question to answer based on the topic of the day.
Yeah, I would say that RV life can be as cheap or as expensive as you want to make it.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of a cheater answer, but it's really true.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on where you're going, what you're doing, places that you're staying at. If you go to a resort, you're going to pay a lot more. If you go to places that are hotbeds for traveling or tourist places, you're going to pay a lot more. But then you can also manage those costs by staying places longer, by utilizing the discount programs we talked about, by doing activities that are free. Go to a state park and go spend the day hiking. That might be a $5 to $10 entrance fee into that state park, and then you have a whole day worth of entertainment. So it really just depends on what you're doing, where you're staying, and how much you're traveling or not traveling as to how expensive or inexpensive this lifestyle can be. So, like, one discount program that we actually forgot about, speaking of site fees, is there's places that you can go, like the Army Corps of Engineers or state parks or national parks, where you can stay there, and those site fees are going to be much more inexpensive than going to usually a regular campground, and certainly less expensive than going to a resort style campground where they're going to have a ton of different amenities, and they're probably going to be closer to bigger cities and things like that as well.
And obviously, that we're not even talking about the cost of the vehicle, the cost of the actual RV. Those are things that you have to count into all of that, and that's part of your, individual decision, what you're coming from, full timing, or if you own a home and are just traveling on the weekends. I would say, and the question was full timing, so I'll answer mostly about that. Like, you've got to buy an RV that's big enough to sustain you, that you don't need a home, but you also don't want to waste money on it, because you are going to have to pay for site fees as well. And oh, by the way, depending on what RV you get, if you get a towable, either fifth wheel or pull behind, then you're going to need some sort of vehicle to pull it, or vice versa. If you get something like a motorhome, then you can probably keep whatever vehicle you have and just tow it behind you.
Again, those are all of the different things that you're going to have to take into consideration, but the main thing that I would say is form a budget just like you would with any kind of lifestyle, and stick to your budget and shop around. Get the deals that you're looking for. Don't be afraid to drive a little further in order to be able to get, a cheaper fee, and then, plan your trips around that. So thanks for listening to this episode, all about memberships and discounts, and then our trip to Branson and Ohio as well. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'd love to stay connected, so follow us on Instagram at WanderingRVBabe, or email us, especially if we forgot about any memberships or discount programs that you've experienced. We'd love to hear about it. So email us at podcast@WanderingRVBabe.com. We'll see you next time.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Okay, I do have one more, like, halfway recommend. We didn't really mention it when we were talking about Branson, but one thing we did while we were there, just off on a whim, we literally saw signs for it, and we just got a reservation for that same night, was Dolly Parton's Stampede. Okay. We all know who Dolly Parton is and kind of her personality, and this is very much in that same vein.
It was so fun.
If you have kids, You will enjoy. Your kids will enjoy the show. If you've ever been to medieval times in Dallas or anywhere else that it exists, it is better. And oh, by the way, none of the Dolly Parton shows have drinks.